Maomao wakes up in the lazy morning of the pleasure district, feeling chilly. She heads to the verdigris house to get hot water for her bath and meets Maomao, one of the establishment's 3 princesses. Grams asks her to come over, but she forgets. As she arrives, she sees Mr. Owner getting scolded by the madam. Maomao and Ukyou have breakfast with the ladies, but they are served fried locusts, a gift from Mr. Owner, who failed to bargain in his trade for crops. The insects are unsavory, and everyone finds it hard to finish eating them. Ukyou shockingly takes a bite of the crunchy locusts, surprising Maomao. However, Ukyou is preoccupied with bargaining with Parin for a mooncake. After breakfast, Maomao is tasked with an errand to the market by the madam. She agrees on the condition of breakfast and bathwater for 2. As they wander through the market, Ukyou cannot resist pointing out toys at a stall, causing a ruckus. Seeing the palace from the market makes Maomao feel like her time there was just a dream, but having Ukyou with her is a reminder of the events that brought them together. The Shu clan rebellion made an impact on the market, with fewer places selling grain crops and timber products from the northern regions. Maomao noticed an abundance of dried fruits and textiles from the south and west, but what caught her eye were the simmered insects for sale. She couldn't fathom who would buy such things and scolded her companion, Ukyou, for his insensitive comments. However, Ukyou revealed that when the bugs are crunchy, it means the harvest will be bad. Concerned, Maomao hit him on the head in hopes of shaking his memories loose. Ukyou, eager to recall, asked for a bribe in exchange for his information. When Maomao returned from delivering medicine, she found a crowd gathered around Ukyou, who had taken up portrait drawing and was making a considerable profit from it. The madam of the house chastised Maomao for allowing Ukyou to run amok and demanded a cut of his profits, causing Maomao to grumble in anger. When Ukyou returned home, he asked for his brush, but Maomao refused, citing the madam's greed. Maomao warns Ukyou to stay close to their residence in the pleasure district, the verdigris house, and not to go out alone due to the dangerous people lurking around. She points out a woman with no nose who is a prostitute and emphasizes that people would line up to kill him for his coins. Ukyou agrees and spends the night drawing bugs with ink and paper. Maomao discovers that he remembers 2 types of locusts, which could be important if there is a plague. She heads to a bookstore and finds a book she had previously seen, one of the books given to her when she was confined for research on the elixir of immortality. Maomao finds a stolen item from Shishu's stronghold in a marketplace and suspects some shady dealings. She enlists the help of Lihaku, who is infatuated with Parin, one of the 3 princesses of the verdigris house. Meanwhile, Maomao interrogates the thief she caught and discovers the whereabouts of some of the stolen books. As they negotiate, Ukyou arrives with food and tries to ease the tension. Eventually, Maomao manages to secure the cooperation of the thief in exchange for her promise not to sell him out. Ukyou and Maomao observe a thief enjoying his meal, and Ukyou suspects he had a difficult journey to the capital. The thief seems decent despite selling books to survive. The trio discuss the difference between locusts and grasshoppers in the stew, and the thief predicts a possible famine due to the number of grasshoppers. Maomao questions the thief's motives for stealing the encyclopedias, and he reveals he did not want to sell them and hoped to buy them back. He also reveals knowledge of a man who was researching how to prevent a plague. Ukyou interrupts, but Maomao tosses medicine into the thief's mouth to avoid him revealing more information. The trio distract Ukyou, and Maomao contemplates informing Jinshi of their encounter. A masked noble arrived at the apothecary shop 3 days later. Maomao greeted him warmly, but Gaoshun was confused. Jinshi introduced himself and sat on a cushion. After removing the mask, Jinshi revealed his beautiful face with a scar. People had started writing stories about the scar's origins, making Maomao feel sad. She gave Jinshi an encyclopedia which she acquired from a former guard to explain the rise of grasshoppers. The encyclopedia contained annotations, and Maomao believed that the other volume dealing with insects was at the stronghold. Jinshi called for a menservant to obtain the volume, and Maomao suggested that he rest. Despite his tiredness, Jinshi insisted he was fine and left the shop. Maomao jokes about Jinshi sleeping alone, but he admits he can't sleep without someone nearby. Maomao calls the madam to prepare a room for him and offers him tea. Jinshi is surprised when he sees women in the bath and decides against it. Maomao offers him a massage, but he declines and just wants to sleep. The courtesans are not to his liking, and Gaoshun cannot accept the offer either. Maomao sings him a lullaby, and Jinshi falls asleep. He leaves the next day, and Pairin from the Three Princesses taunts Maomao about her love life. Maomao closed her shop at dusk to avoid attracting unsavory characters and counted her earnings before handing them over for safekeeping. She and Ukyou returned to their shack, where she heated soup for them. Maomao refused to spend money on unnecessary luxuries and reminded Ukyou that those who don't work don't eat. The next day they went shopping for clothes, searching for quality items in the midst of shady shopkeepers. When Maomao's attention was drawn to an unusual white robe, the shopkeeper enthusiastically described its celestial origins and the romantic tale of the village girl who made it. A young girl's family arrives in the village to find her, just as a villager proposes to her. Refusing to give her up, he hides her away, and the village pretends to know nothing. The girl's family is suspicious, and the villager rushes to marry her before they can object. Despite the girl's tears and objections, she is made to purify herself and wear a gown she had made for the wedding. As she swears her vows, she begs for him to let her go back to her family. When he refuses, she sets herself on fire and disappears into the spring. The villagers believe she and her family return to the sky. Meanwhile, Maomao haggles with a shopkeeper over buying a robe allegedly made by a celestial nymph. After realizing the robe is made of rock fiber and won't burn, she buys it and gets several free clothes. Maomao believes the celestial nymph was from a foreign country, possibly with northern blood. In the small village, marrying close relatives was discouraged for fear of producing weaker offspring. Therefore, the villagers would prefer marrying someone from a more distant bloodline. When a young woman was thought to have been lost, or worse, kidnapped, the villagers were determined not to lose such an essential prize. The young woman had made a dress from rock fiber, an unusual material, and embroidered it with secret messages. On the day of the wedding, she wore wetted undergarments under her rock fiber robe, and then put a more flammable garment over it. Maomao revealed that the young woman must have drenched her hair and jumped in a spring before sustaining any burns. Maomao speculated that the young woman could have come from the west or north, either as an accomplished performer or as an intelligence agent. Regardless, she successfully ran away. A haggard man interrupts Maomao's sleep, begging for medicine for his sick child. Maomao is annoyed but agrees to go with him. Upon arrival, she finds a child lying in filth with necrotic fingers and a paralyzed appearance. The father and older sister plead with Maomao to help. Despite the lack of resources, Maomao assesses the situation and questions the food they fed the child, which turns out to be insufficient for nourishment. With a heavy heart, Maomao promises to do what she can to heal the child. Maomao discovers a young girl and her sister living in squalor. The older sister, in desperation, confesses to Maomao that they have been hiding cakes from their father, who only gambles and makes them beg for money. Maomao realizes the cakes contain a toxin found in bad grain and takes the younger sister to her own home for treatment. The father later visits Maomao, but she refuses to give him the girl back without payment. The older sister offers to take her younger sister's place, even though she knows it means becoming a prostitute. Maomao realizes the harsh reality of living in poverty and that sometimes people will do anything to survive. A desperate young woman pleads with Maomao to help her escape a life of misery and servitude. Despite the fact that the lady who runs the brothel is cruel and miserly, the girl is willing to do whatever it takes to escape her fate. She even plans to bring her younger sister along in hopes of finding a way to support them both. Maomao is initially hesitant to get involved, but she can't help but admire the girl's courage and determination. In the end, she offers the young woman some old clothes and tells her to wash up before heading to the brothel. What happens next is anyone's guess. Basin, the son of Gaoshun, pays a visit to Maomao's apothecary shop with some encyclopedia volumes. She pours him tea as he complains about Master Jinshi being too busy to come along. Basin uses Jinshi's eunuch name as an alias, and also because saying the name of a noble is inappropriate in front of commoners. While they are discussing the books, Maomao cannot find information on Locusts from the sets she bought. She suspects somebody retired them and asks if anybody touched the books when they were in storage. Meanwhile, Perrin, Maomao's sister, and courtesan of Verdigris' house, enters the shop and unexpectedly flirts with Basin. After Basin leaves, Maomao shows Sazan, her assistant, the volumes Basin brought, but they could not find the elusive entry on Locusts. Sazan then realizes that there should have been an additional volume that contains crucial information about insects. Sazan and Maomao discuss the missing volume of an encyclopedia, which Sazan believes was buried with a former physician who had been researching immortality. Maomao realizes that the physician must have tested the resurrection drug on himself and is still alive. She requests to meet with Suirei, the physician's helper and a member of the Shu clan, and brings the encyclopedia volumes to show her. Suirei confirms that one volume is missing and reveals that the physician is still alive after testing the drug on himself to escape confinement. Suirei had taken the resurrection drug herself. Unfortunately, she had lost her memories, and her mentor also suffered from amnesia. Maomao hoped to learn from Suirei's mentor about the research on locusts, but he had lost most of his research because of the Elixir of Immortality project. However, with the help of our duo, Maomao learns about a clinic that has been reopened with a eunuch overseer. There, she finds a book on insects with a sheet covered in detailed illustrations, which revealed that there will be a famine this year caused by grasshoppers. The bugs have the ability to cause widespread destruction by eating crops, which can lead to starvation. The timing could not have been worse, with talk of the Shu clan's annihilation and the looming threat of a major plague. Maomao and Jinshi were only concerned with one thing. Could the person they were investigating stop insect plagues? Sadly, the notes they found didn't suggest any effective chemicals, only encouraged dealing with the problem before it escalates. They decided to burn off areas with larvae and ban sparrow hunting. Jinshi suggested convincing people that grasshopper dishes were popular among aristocrats, though the idea didn't sit well with him. Despite protests from the others, Maomao joked about feeding grasshoppers to Jinshi. Surprisingly, he took a bite, causing a shock to everyone in the room. In the end, Jinshi demanded congee, but was reluctant to take it. Maomao feeds Jinshi some congee and lotus, though she finds his behavior childish. To everyone's surprise, Maomao then offers Jinshi a grasshopper, which he reluctantly eats. The apprentice is traumatized by the sight, but Chou comforts her. Later, Maomao is asked by Chou what kind of man she likes, and after playing along, she realizes that the portrait drawn by Chou resembles the physician at the rear palace. Disappointed, the group disperses, leaving only Joker and Maomao to contemplate the moonlit night. Meanwhile, the brothel bustles with romances ready to blossom and fade. Yoka, the youngest of the three princesses, sympathizes with Maomao about the fickleness of men and acknowledges the difficulty of finding a trustworthy suitor. Joker's impressive education attracts potential candidates for the civil service examinations, but she still identifies as a prostitute. Maomao suggests Joker limit her smoking, but Joker enjoys defying the stuffy bureaucrats. Maomao's sister Maymay shares a shocking story about a mysterious woman with white hair and red eyes, rumored to have immortal powers. The woman attracts big, important men to her show, causing a drop in customers for the Verdigris house, a high-class brothel. Ukyou suggests that Maomao should go and see the show for herself, but she refuses. However, several days later, she receives an unexpected visit from Lahan, the nephew and adopted son of an eccentric strategist who invites her to see the show with his friends. Maomao is invited by Lahan to watch a performance by the famous albino woman, Pai Nyang Nyang. Lahan claims to be interested in her beauty, but Maomao suspects he has ulterior motives. Lahan assures her that the eccentric strategist, his father, will not be present, but one of his subordinates, Rikuson, will accompany them. The troupe is rumoured to perform for a delegation from the West, and Lahan wants a woman's perspective on the performance. They arrive at the theatre, where they find a crowd of wealthy patrons, some of whom don masks and veils. They are seated in the left side of the theatre and are provided with drinks and snacks. Maomao refrains from drinking as she wants to keep a clear head. Maomao attends a show where a white lady performs a mysterious act. She writes a number and puts it in a tube. The lady correctly guesses the number and reveals it to the audience. Maomao is unsure how it was done and returns to her companions, including Lahan, who jokes about her receiving a bribe. Maomao doubts anyone saw her, but wonders if there was a hidden mirror. The white lady's eyesight wasn't good, but that didn't stop her from continuing her performance. She used chopsticks to pick up a small piece of metal, placed it in a dish, and put it in the fire. She chanted a spell, danced, and shortly after removed the metal from the fire. The metal had transformed from bronze to silver. Maomao was fascinated by the performance, but she noticed that the drinks were adulterated with salt. Suspecting that there was a trick to the metal transformation, Maomao concluded that the mist on stage was produced by boiling something behind the stage. She tried whistling, and to her surprise, the white lady reacted. They later talked about their experience at a restaurant. Maomao explained to them that the transformation was similar to transmutation, a subcategory of liandan shu. Maomao played with the spoon as she explained the art of liandan shu to Lahan and Rikuson. She revealed that stories of an ancient emperor obsessed with immortality were mere tales. The method was akin to alchemy and involved enclosing one metal in a shell of another. Although Maomao had always been curious about alchemy, her father refused to reveal the necessary ingredients. She then went on to explain how the self-burning paper could have been produced with byproducts of the process, and the paper butterflies could have been made with high-quality paper. Maomao then demonstrated how she had read Lahan's mind. By putting salt in the ink and applying heat, the number was revealed on the dark pad underneath. She also explained how high-pitched sounds could have been used to hide the sound of the paper being put into the tubes. The group realized that the mystical woman must have extremely sensitive hearing. The 100 tubes in the box could have worked like the holes in a flute. Maomao proposes a simple method for the white lady's trickery, using 10 distinct sounds blown into the pipes hidden below the veil to match the signals of gongs and bells. The use of mist from boiling water beneath the desk also explains the blowing of the pipes. However, Maomao cautions against imitating the white lady's end-of-show silver liquid consumption, which is a potent poison. The white lady and her show disappear, leaving behind a series of mysterious food poisonings. Maomao wonders about the white lady's objective and the effects of the consumed quicksilver, once believed to be a palliative for immortality. She resolves to forget the entire matter. Maomao receives a letter from Jinshi, knowing that it means trouble. While contemplating what to do next, she is interrupted by 2 kids carrying poisonous plants. She educates them on the plants' differences and decides to teach Sazen about medicine. Despite Sazen's lack of confidence, Maomao encourages him to become an apothecary. With Jinshi in her life, Maomao needs someone to hold down the fort at the shop. She believes Sazen is the perfect fit. The physician at the rear palace was personable, but lacked the ability to apply his medical knowledge. Maomao had to move fast, as time was running out. She instructed Sazen to learn what's in the books and pick up on simple recipes. Maomao even taught him which plants are poisonous and how to handle them. Sazen turned out to be a quick learner, but Ukyou didn't show any interest in it. One day, while Maomao was out, she was surprised to see a calico cat charging at her and a familiar quack doctor approaching. Apparently, the doctor had been granted permission to return home, and a personal request from the matron of the serving women had him meeting someone at the apothecary shop. Maomao was left to ponder why they would be travelling with the quack doctor, and why Jinshi demanded that she accompany him on an expedition. The quack doctor suggested that his family would look after the calico cat, as they were producers of paper, and would welcome a guard to be on the lookout for any rats that might chew on the product. But will Maomao behave herself on the long journey? The courtesan spotted a cat but frightened it away. Maomao and the quack chased after it and found the cat at the kitchen. The quack revealed that he had to return home due to a problem in the paper production. Unexpectedly, their customer Basin arrived, disguised as a somber noble. He revealed that they were leaving immediately and had already packed for Maomao. As they left, Maomao thought about Jinshi's heavy workload and the possibility of him grooming a successor. After 2 days of travelling by carriage, the group arrived in the quack doctor's hometown, situated near a forest and mountains. The fields had barley and rice paddies, and the river restored the nutrients in the ground, ideal for farming. The forest served as the source for paper making, with quality being the focus rather than bulk production. Auntie Quack welcomed them with delicious food, but her oldest son was disrespectful towards the quack, who kept a calm demeanour. Maomao handled the situation expertly, impressing Basin, while Jinshi maintained his composure. The older son left in a huff, but the rest enjoyed the meal. The quack doctor visited Auntie Quack and her family, who apologized for the boy's rudeness. The quack brushed it off, but Auntie Quack was troubled by his dismissive remarks. The family then asked the quack for a favor to reach out to the emperor, as he is renowned for his medical expertise and even delivered the emperor's child. However, Maomao cautioned that approaching the emperor could be dangerous. Auntie Quack then revealed their village's problem with their landlord, trying to drive them out and take over their land. The quack questioned their landlord's motives, but Auntie Quack explained that the taxes on rice had increased, while the tax on paper had decreased, causing tension between them. Jinshi remained calm, but Maomao could see him fidgeting. Maomao joins a family meeting, where they request her help in lowering their taxes. Despite Jinshi's presence, Maomao deems it impossible to comply. Auntie Quack's husband, the village headman, invites them to a conference the following day, which they accept. Maomao washes her hair and is visited by Jinshi, who asks for her help in replicating his makeup. She agrees and is led by Jinshi to the master physician's house. Jinshi and Maomao stopped at a village on the way to their destination to investigate the strange tax circumstances and rice shipping quantities. Lahan, Jinshi's cousin, believed something was off, and they discovered a concerning matter involving professional paper producers being replaced by amateurs. Maomao tended to Jinshi's burn scar with her goop makeup, which Basin found them doing unexpectedly. The next day, they all attended a meeting at a dreary restaurant, where Maomao was initially unwelcomed due to her gender. However, she managed to persuade Auntie Quack to let her come and observe the meeting. The group investigated an alleged contract involving a middle-aged man and his 15 associates, who appeared to have ill intentions. Basin questions the necessity of the quack's presence in the situation they find themselves in. Meanwhile, the group notices the abundance of alcohol in the establishment. The discussions turn to the issue of a land contract, with the quack's brother-in-law having trouble paying off the debt. Maomao discovers the contract marks to be valid, but the landlord claims it to be invalid due to the previous landlord's illiteracy. The landlord offers for the craftsman to teach the tenants the paper-making process instead of demanding payment. The craftsmen are distraught while the landlord orders drinks for everyone. Maomao enjoys the sweet wine and offers some to Jinshi and Basin. Maomao found herself face-to-face with unruly customers at an eating establishment. She noticed that despite having a whole barrel of cloudy wine, they weren't serving it to the landlord and the farmers. Maomao asked if there was a distillery, but was told there wasn't. She challenged the landlord to a drinking contest, with a bet of her own life worth, to pay off the 4,500 silver debt, which the quack's brother-in-law owed. The landlord laughed and mocked her, but Jinshi interjected with a substantial amount of silver, revealing that Maomao was worth more than 300 silver. Maomao and Jinshi both gave the farmers a smug look, as they had secured the bet. The papermakers and quack doctor could only watch in shock. Maomao shows off her drinking skills by defeating several farmers in a drinking competition. She manages to win contracts from her opponents and gives them to the quack's brother-in-law. However, the landlord claims the bet doesn't count, and Maomao threatens to report him for tax fraud if he doesn't honor the contracts. In the end, Maomao proves once again that she is not to be underestimated. The silence was deafening in the restaurant as the landlords and farmers were stunned by Maomao's revelation about tax evasion and illegal winemaking. With her father's teachings in mind, Maomao kept her explanation to herself and let the farmers realize the truth on their own. When the farmers demanded proof, she suggested an official search of their houses, and the farmers fell silent. With her 6 well-built men and the bodyguards, Jinshi and Basen, the proprietors of the restaurant, took a neutral stance, while Maomao faced off against the farmers. As Maomao was about to leave, a young woman appeared, apologizing for her father's behavior. The situation became clear to Maomao when the young woman's brother revealed that he was in love with the daughter of the landlord. As Maomao watched the comical scene unfold, she realized that she had to do something to prevent the destruction of the entire village. Despite the absurdity, everyone involved took the situation seriously. Maomao was frustrated and resorted to drinking copiously. Eventually, a compromise was reached where the craftsman's village would pay off their debt over 5 years, and the landlord would regularly send rice to Maomao's residence for the next 10 years. The quack's nephew and landlord's daughter's fates were of no concern. That was the end of the matter. The emperor and Gaoshun look up at the moon, nicknamed Yue, and discuss its safety on its journey to the west. Basin is now guarding Yue, and the young apothecary accompanies them on their journey. The emperor worries about a plague of insects and the potential disastrous consequences. The western capital is their ultimate destination, where important discussions will be held with people from other countries. Maomao is surprised to discover they will be traveling to the western capital, which will take over 2 weeks by carriage and boat. She puts her worry for Chou and Sazen aside and focuses on getting as much money from Jinshi during the trip. Maomao is bored as Basen lectures her about politics, but she notes that he's surprisingly knowledgeable. They are traveling and staying in a small village for the night. Maomao wants to buy provisions, and Jinshi joins her, offering her money. Basin is not happy with this, but Jinshi likes to accompany Maomao. They come across interesting items like hemp production and snake worship, and buy fresh dairy products. They are preparing to head to a new region with different types of horses. Maomao was hesitant to believe the woman's superstitions, especially when it came to white snakes. Jinshi's expression also darkened, likely due to his knowledge of the White Lady. The woman warned them about the recent increase in bandit activity on the westward road, but Maomao suspected it was just a ploy to sell more goods. Back at the inn, Basen informed them that they would need a guide for travel due to the threat of bandits collecting a toll. Jinshi and Basen didn't seem pleased about the situation, but Maomao hoped they could avoid any confrontation with the criminals. The guide warned of possible bandit attack in a narrow pass, but the merchants decided to risk it. They were not so lucky as a nearby carriage had already been attacked. The group found hog-tied bandits and injured guards. Our duo, a former consort, had been travelling with a woman who was nearly sold by the bandits. Among the chaos, Maomao meets Suirei, who also left the palace to investigate the situation. Unfortunately, Maomao's limited medical supplies could only do so much as they worked to treat the injured. As they chatted, the guard's pain interrupted their conversation. Suirei showed she was skilled at handling such situations, while the bandit incident was a miscalculation. Maomao changed clothes and joined the group, which included a consort and Suirei. Ardua revealed that they were on a mission to find a wife for the imperial younger brother and were attending important discussions. The reason for the consort's presence remained a mystery. Maomao ponders the lack of love in the lives of important people who seek only suitable partners for children. She questions why Arduo brought consort Lishu with her and wonders if she's to be given away. Maomao doesn't think she'd make a good consort and considers a potential marriage to someone else. The beautiful emperor would make an attractive partner, but also has many drawbacks, including the potential chaos if it were revealed he wasn't a eunuch. While resting at an inn with the wounded guard, Maomao is surprised by consort Lishu's visit. Lishu asks about a way to confirm the identity of a parent and child, concerned for herself and her father. Her father sees her as a political tool to advance their family's standing, and Lishu was never meant to return to the rear palace. She was almost married off to an old governor, until Arduo and the emperor intervened. But Lishu worries her father might have planned it as part of a betrothal scheme. Maomao sympathizes with Lishu's lack of suitability as a consort. Lishu had been asking Maomao about determining her parentage, but the subject seemed to be causing Maomao more trouble than she'd anticipated. Lishu seemed to suspect the emperor might be her real father, which put a damper on her impending marriage to the emperor's younger brother, Jinshi. To confirm her suspicion, Maomao needed to find a way to determine whether an alleged parent and child were related, but that would require a delicate touch. Meanwhile, Maomao assisted Suire in a room at the inn where they treated injured men. They were visited by the guide who'd led them astray and caused an injury to one of the guards. He offered them opium, claiming it was a painkiller, but Maomao and Suire were wise to his ways and demanded to know where he'd gotten it. It seemed that the guide had gotten it from a merchant traveling with a caravan of entertainers who claimed it was meant to help people forget their troubles. Maomao couldn't help but shake her head at the whole situation. In the town where their guide lived, everything was dried and smoked. Luckily, nobody had taught them how to smoke opium. The guide didn't smoke himself, as he feared addiction. He spoke of a caravan he saw a year ago, with a young girl who had white hair and was worshipped as the serpent god. Maomao couldn't help but think of a woman she knew with white hair. The opium salvaged the injured men's pain, but all the bandits were opium addicts. Despite their attempts, they couldn't learn anything from the men. Despite some unresolved problems, the group reaches their destination without further complications. Maomao spends time bonding with Suire, discovering new approaches to mixing medicine. The desert scenery amazes Maomao, but that night they must be careful of scorpions and snakes. Lishu, a consort, is rarely seen and has limited conversation opportunities. Maomao wonders about Lishu secretly being the emperor's child, and Jinshi being a potential marriage prospect. Finally arriving at the western capital, they encounter a festival and are welcomed by a familiar face. They rest in luxurious rooms and prepare for upcoming banquets and meetings. After overhearing a fight in the next room, Maomao goes to check on consort Lishu, who had been slapped by her half-sister. Maomao inspects Lishu's mouth and offers to dine with her and Lady Arduo to make sure her food is safe. They end up eating in a room with coloured glass ceilings, which was once a place of worship for a foreign deity. Suire declines their invitation, making it less of a matchmaking meeting. Maomao felt someone watching them but ignored it, instead enjoying the exotic atmosphere and delicious meal with Arduo and consort Lishu. When the meal was over, she sent them back to their rooms. While searching for a server, she noticed someone was following her. It was Basan. He asked about consort Lishu, and Maomao suspected he was curious about her as a potential wife for Jinshi. Maomao thought Lishu was a strong candidate, but Basan seemed awkward about it. Maomao suggested Basan meet Lishu himself to get to know her. Lishu was now talking in Suire's presence, but never directly to him, as she still believed he was a man. Basan and Maomao are hiding in the dark when they are approached by 3 men. They are about to leave when Jinshi appears, along with Lahan and Rikuson. Maomao is summoned by Lahan the following day for business matters and is joined by Rikuson. Lahan shows Maomao a wanted poster of the White Lady and a man who was found posing as a porter bringing in cargo from Shayo. In an effort to catch the man, and possibly the White Lady, Lahan asks Maomao to attend a banquet as a Laclan princess and investigate any rare poisons that might be involved. Maomao reluctantly agrees, but not before negotiating an honorarium and asking Rikuson if he can determine if people are related by blood. Maomao is still figuring out how to put Lahan's special talent to use. Maomao realizes that there's no way to prove Rikuson's judgments on children's parentage can be accepted without clear and measurable criteria. Lahan tries to bribe her into coming to a banquet, but insults her by suggesting Jinshi's child could be her opportunity to experience childbirth. However, Lahan's talented at making clothes, and he presents Maomao with a beautiful silver hairstick that she's sure is tied to her past. That night, Maomao observes Jinshi and Gyokwen at a banquet seated together, while a medium-aged man sits across from them. Maomao attends a banquet where she observes Ukyou, Lishu's father, who resembles the consort. Lahan warns her not to make the matter public as rumors are already swirling at court. Lishu covers her face in the presence of men, and a young woman who is identified as her half-sister sits beside Ukyou. The high officials do not eat much except for Ukyou, who nibbles on some rice and lamb, while Lahan favors the fish that reassures the chefs. Maomao tries the white fish that is pickled and salted, which smells a little funny but is not rotten. She notes down the flavors and appearances of the food to keep a close eye on the attendants serving out the food and check for poison. Rikuson offers wine to Maomao, and they have a brief conversation about her hairstick before a serving woman's mistake causes a dish to break. Ukyou reacts short-temperedly and apologizes, but Gyokwen instructs the server to be disciplined or fired. Diplomacy was a hassle. Endless meetings, greetings, and eating. Important people were always busy. Maomao wasn't. When a woman showed up at her door, Consort Lishu's half-sister, Maomao scowled at being treated like a member of the family, but kept calm. The woman's attention was drawn to Maomao's hairstick, causing suspicion. Later, in the garden, Maomao found an unusual plant, but was warned by Suire not to touch it. They shared interests as apothecaries and wanted to learn more about such plants. Maomao learns about a cactus discovered in the west, which is hardy in dry climates and has edible fruit and stems. She asks if it has any medicinal uses, but no one is sure. Suire, a woman around Maomao's age, suggests mixing it with yogurt to help with digestion, but Maomao notes that the sheltered princess Lishu has a lot of food sensitivities. Later at the banquet, Maomao is forced to get dressed up, but is happy to find out that the custom is to eat standing up. As food taster, she follows her charge around to sample his meal, and wonders if anything will really happen. Lahan, trying to flatter her, says that clothes don't make the woman, but Maomao tells him to shut up. Maomao's hair was styled, but it was overshadowed by the grandeur of the banquet. She felt out of place among the opulent guests, but her silver hairstick brought her some comfort. As she explores the banquet hall, she notices the decorative ceiling and the diverse guests, including a former consort hiding her identity and a group of Westerners conversing with Lahan. Maomao is left to entertain herself and tries to resist the temptation of the alcohol tray as she contemplates the mixed bloodlines of the attendees. Suddenly, she is surrounded by a trio of a woman and two men, one being an interpreter, and catches Lahan's gaze. Maomao recognizes Ayla as a special emissary who visited the capital last year with her partner. Ayla seems interested in talking to Lahan about products from further west, but Maomao senses something deeper being planned. Ayla reveals her country will face a northern catastrophe soon and asks Maomao to help them flee if the business transaction doesn't work out. Maomao realizes problems continue to pile up. Lahan is excitedly considering the emissary's request for asylum, thinking about how it could benefit his business. Maomao thinks the request is unexpected, but suspects it is due to a potential famine caused by a plague. She wonders if the emissary recognized her from a previous encounter. Meanwhile, a dance is happening, and Jinshi is attracting attention while Basen tries to blend in. Rikuson offers Maomao a drink and suggests they dance together, reminding her of the importance of what she wears on her head. He kisses her hand, to her annoyance. After the song ended, Lahan continued to calculate while Rikuson disappeared. Maomao felt someone watching her, but ignored it, and brushed her hand where Rikuson had kissed it. She saw Consort Lishu sitting behind her veil, looking at a middle-aged man while her half-sister chatted with him. Maomao offered food to Lishu, who was waiting for Lady Arduo to help her with the perfume someone spilled on her. The crowd's attention then shifted to a reddish-brown creature, a lion. As the lion grew agitated and broke free, Maomao threw medicine at it while Lishu clung to her sleeve. They ended up hiding under a table, hoping they wouldn't be hurt. Lishu was frozen in terror as a lion approached her, but someone intervened just in time. It was Basen, the man who had been traveling with them, and he used an iron bar to subdue the lion. Maomao realized that Basin was more capable than anyone had thought. Later, Ukyou, Consort Lishu's father, was injured by flying debris in the fight with the lion. Lishu's half-sister blamed Basin for the injury, but Jinshi, Basin's employer, defended Basin's actions. Meanwhile, Maomao noticed the young woman's bad teeth and offered some advice on oral health, surprising everyone with her antics. Maomao confronted Ukyou and Lishu, asking if they were missing a lower front tooth, as they all shared the same trait. She also pointed out that Ukyou and Lishu had the same dietary restriction when it comes to white fish. Her observant nature proved her point, and she suggested that Ukyou should treat his other daughter with affection. Her bold approach may have been a bit over the top, but her message was clear. Maomao regrets not having another cup of wine as she shivers in the cold outside the building. She escaped the trouble inside and thinks about the lion's broken nose. Jinshi joins her and discusses the weak metal and the strange attack of the lion on Consort Lishu. Jinshi's self-consciousness about his looks is revealed, and he mentions his impending choice of bride. He grabs Maomao's hand, but she suspects he won't do anything harmful. Maomao reflects on her lack of emotion and her dedication to her work. Maomao feels Jinshi's sweaty hand and watches as he gazes at her with intense obsidian eyes. Thinking about the dangers of being a courtesan, they share a moment of intimacy, but soon Jinshi's fingers tighten around her throat. Maomao tries to reason with him, but he continues to hurt her. Maomao struggles as Jinshi chokes her, but eventually she is able to breathe. Jinshi questions her about her involvement with Lahan. Maomao realizes she is being considered as a candidate for something, but worries it could make her an enemy of the powerful monocled freak. As Jinshi leans in again, Maomao remembers her sister's courtesan teachings and uses them to please Jinshi. In another part of the capital, Ardua reflects on a promise made as children, but is aware it may not be possible for it to come true. She remembers a dark time when she was unable to bear a child and tried to manipulate her friend into being unfaithful. Arduo feels guilty about her actions and reflects on her own twisted nature. She later becomes a consort and bears a child, but is unable to satisfy its hunger with her milk. She makes a difficult decision. 2 babies, born at the same time, were switched by their mothers, who were missing pieces of their hearts. Arduo's child died, and Anshi's child died unloved, with its rightful place taken by its nephew, causing both mothers to shake from the tragedy. In the rear palace, a physician's adopted daughter becomes the favorite of Arduo's son, along with other princesses. Arduo enjoys teasing the lovely eunuch and listening to the bearded old grump's complaints. She remembers a playful promise to become a mother of the nation, and resolves to watch over Yue and discover which flower he chooses.